This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon and welcome to today's safari. We are here on and beyond Pinder Private Game Reserve with some very, very interesting behavior. These are monitor lizards and they are mating. But welcome to today's safari and we hope you enjoy it. Hello everyone and welcome to this afternoon's game drive. My name is Clive. Behind the camera we have Marcel as per usual, and we have found something pretty amazing that personally in my 4 odd years of guiding I have never seen, and that is monitor lizards mating, which is really, really amazing. Now the first 45 minutes of today's drive is obviously dedicated to the kids out there. So please remember to send your questions through to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. This is really, really, really amazing though. I can't believe it. When we first saw them, with them sitting up on this rock, with these lizards being reptiles and obviously cold-blooded, this time of the year when it's cold, it's very, they're not very active normally, and they will try and find the warmest possible spot to heat up their blood. And at first we thought, no, these lizards are sitting up on this rock just warming up. But now we can see they're actually making babies, which is quite amazing. I think still they kind of, making use of the warm rock as well. I'm sure it's really, really helping them to keep warm and stay warm. But this is really, really amazing. Now, just on our right-hand side, there's quite a big watering hole. Well, sure, it used to be quite a big watering hole. There's a lot of water at the moment, as you can see. It's more than likely going to dry up in the next little while. But these monitor lizards are called water monitors. So they are usually close to water. They're very dependent on the water as well for their food. They eat all the insects and the frogs. So they're very dependent on this water, which is probably why they're close by. And when this female falls pregnant, she's probably going to find a soft patch of soil close to here and bury her until they hatch. So it's going to be a really, really interesting time for these monitor lizards coming. But while we carry on our afternoon safari, we're going to send you across to James with some dwarf mongooses.
Good afternoon and welcome to this end of the Sunset Safari. There we have got some dwarf mongoose. My name is James Henry. On camera is David. And it's so warm this afternoon that he doesn't even have his little gloves on. Let's go back to our beautiful dwarf mongoose over there. The weather is around about 25 degrees here in the Lowveld of South Africa. We're at Djuma Private Game Reserve on the western fringes of the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park, and those are the smallest carnivores on offer in this area. And many of you will have seen the meerkats at Tswalu up in the Kalahari. These are the sort of ecological equivalent, if you like, of the surrogates or meerkats that you find up there in the Kalahari. Please remember to ask us as many questions as you'd like to during the next 45 minutes using the email address kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. That's kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. These little dwarf mongoose live a very leisurely life. They don't have to get up and go to school. They don't have to go and buy things from the shops. They don't have to do chores around the house. All they do is get up late in the morning once the sun is well up, sun themselves, groom themselves, and then wander about pretty close to where they live, find nice things to eat. A little bit difficult in winter, but not that difficult. And then when it starts to cool down, like it's starting to do now, they come back to their little burrow or their termite mound where they live, and there you can see them sunning themselves again, having a very leisurely time. Let's now go to some of what must be the last insects of the winter.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Djuma Game Reserve. James is correct. This is actually one of my favourite insects, and it's probably the last of the summer. Now we are well and truly into winter, and the butterflies around here have completely disappeared. My name is Lauren, and I do have BK on camera today. We are in Simbambili at this gorgeous pan, just admiring the butterflies. I have been looking for butterflies for quite some time now, and we have 1, 2, and 3. Now, what we mean by the last of the summer butterflies is that they have such a short life cycle. Very, very short, that they normally don't live longer than one summer, one season. And now that winter's here, I think these are spotted jokers. Now, I'm not quite sure what this pair is doing. Oh, it's not a pair. There's 3 of them. Now, they're not mating. This is not how butterflies mate. Or are they? I'm not entirely sure, since there's 3 of them. The top one looks like it's... I don't know. But if you look at their antennae, they're very long and bulbous at the end. And that is a sort of feature of a butterfly and not a moth. Ah, what a great start. My favourite animal. And I'm going to send you across to Dylan with one of my other favourite animals.
So super exciting. We've just bumped at least 4 cheetah. It looks like a female, 3 big cubs, sub-adult cubs. I don't even know who these individuals are. And the moment we pulled up, they started moving away. And that was even from quite a long distance. So I don't think, there you got 2 of them in frame there. 3, there's a 3rd one. But there's definitely 4 here. I don't know who these animals are. And they don't seem to be that relaxed. But this is just and then John.
Good afternoon and welcome to a Pride Lins. We're at Ndlovu Dam with 3 elephant bulls just enjoying themselves on this lovely winter's afternoon. I'm kind of envious. I wish I was I wish that I was splashing about in the mud with them. And I'm sure that you all wish to do the same. My name is TAYLA, MCCURDY, and on camera with me today is Gat. And like I said, we are sitting in part of Baluli Game Reserve, which is part of the Greater Kruger National Park, and I'm going to stumble on my words for the rest of the show. This is going to be very exciting, but it's so good to have all the children from all around the world joining us today, and I'm looking forward to you sending your questions, so please remember to do that. But it's been a very busy day at Ndlovu Dam. Lots and lots of herds of elephants have come down to have a drink. It's been quite hot. But everybody has moved off, now just leaving 3 elephant bulls to splash about. Including my new favorite elephant bull on the left. You can see, maybe you can't see it, but he has got a collar around his neck. His name is Kumo, and he is one of the elephants that are being studied by Elephants Alive, which is really nice to be able to learn so much. One of the younger bulls has now gone down onto his knees into the mud wallow that has been created by elephants, buffalo, warthogs have been in there, but he's not satisfied with his footwork, and he wants to loosen some more mud, or perhaps he's just going for a face mask. That's also okay. Goodness, he's really shoving his head into the mud, isn't he? Careful, you might end up doing a headstand, or perhaps he's been watching some of the yoga channels that have been social media. I don't know about yours. Well done. That was very good. That's much better than what I've seen. Very impressive. Oh, the other one now going down as well, trying a different maneuver. Ah, yes, a little mud side body scrub. Very excited, really making sure that they completely lather the mud all over their body, which of course is good to cool the skin. But we'll sit here for a bit longer with the elephants. Off you go back across to the Sabi Sand to see what James is up to.
We have got a monitor lizard, a water monitor lizard. I think you saw a monitor lizard earlier today, but I'm not sure if it was a water or rock monitor lizard. This is a water monitor lizard, and it is the biggest African lizard. Did you know that? I didn't know that until fairly recently. This particular example of a water monitor lizard is not the biggest African lizard, but his species is the biggest. Oh, David, quickly, look. There's a giant kingfisher. That's unusual for this area. Look at that. That's very special. That is the giant kingfisher. And he's just landed in the tree there. Now, it's not the best picture of him because he's not sitting in the open. But they're not common here. If anybody's watching in Australia, that kingfisher's about the same size as a kookaburra. And we've got lots of much smaller kingfishers, but this chap's substantially sized, about double the size of all the others, of the next biggest. That's very special. And he's looking for a fish to grab out of the water. Cool. That's nice to see. Now, if we go back to our monitor lizard, we can answer Tyla's question, which is, what eats a monitor lizard? Their main predators are probably martial eagles, although they take the rock monitors more than they take the water monitors, but they take one of those. So big birds of prey. I suspect crocodiles, if they weren't very careful, would try and grab them. And they probably also have to be relatively careful of larger monitor lizards when they're very small. And maybe when they're small, I suppose big fish swimming around, and even something like a giant kingfisher or a stork would eat a small monitor lizard. But once they get to this size, not a great deal will try and have a go at them. We've also seen leopards eating them. Yeah, Tad, I think to a certain extent its skin is designed to be camouflaged so that it can stay hidden on, rocks and logs and things. But, it's very obvious where it's sitting now, isn't it? So I think you'll find that it's probably a little bit like a leopard, really, where it's designed to be coloured for camouflage in the reeds, where it'll do most of its foraging. And especially in the dappled light, if it's swimming beneath some overhanging vegetation and preying on things or hunting in those sorts of areas, then I think those colours will hide it very nicely. Not so much for when it's basking, because it's pretty obvious to see. Unfortunately now he's hiding behind a tree. I wonder if he'll go into the water. I don't want to start the engine and move because I think that will make him jump off the log. I have seen him jump straight off this log into the water. Right, we're going to head off towards the eastern boundary, see if we can pick up on Tundi the leopardess that we found this morning. You're going to go and see another kind of spotted cat.
So these cats have actually just gone and settled down really, really nicely. They're very alert. That one in the distance there, yeah, that one, kind of keeps glancing towards us, but it's not overly stressed. Then there's actually two a little bit further away. We can just see their bum sticking out. That slight movement, so they're actually grooming each other. So they are nice and relaxed. So I'm really baffled as to exactly which group of cheetah this is. It's definitely youngsters with an adult female. But it's certainly not our most relaxed animals. And I'm just going on the fact that when we moved in and slid like 60 meters, they got up and started moving away straight away. So this is so exciting. You know, we had a report early this morning that there was a relaxed mother with two cubs in the area, and that was what we assumed we were going to find when we moved. When we first saw them, we thought, oh no, there's a mother with two cubs, and it just shows you never know what you're going to turn up. So we're thinking that there's a female with four youngsters there, so 5 in total. But yeah, they were moving in and out of this thick bush, so it could be that we double counted one. And there could just be 3 youngsters and a female. Wow, wow, wow. And they've just fed it. It looks like they'd been feeding on there's barely anything remaining of the kill, but about 200 yards behind us, to the north of us, there's remains of a gemsbuck kill, an oryx, a young oryx. So it's very unlikely that they'd actually go for the adults. I mean, they can, but just oryx are well-known fighters, eh? And certainly not for a mother with youngsters. You know, that would be probably a bite too far. I wonder if a predator ever bites off more than it can chew. Thought for the day. No, these cats, this is brilliant. So sorry, Jeandre. I'm just shuffling there to Jeandre's horror. In terms of habituation, you know, that's the one challenge on these massive, massive, massive areas with so few people on them. You know, you can see animals that you don't know, you don't recognize. And because of that, you can get animals that actually are not used to the presence of vehicles and that. So when we get an opportunity like this, it's absolute gold. Yes, I'm chuffed about this, my word. It's the last thing that was on our minds when we left this afternoon, Jeandre. I think we weren't expecting to see cheetah like this, and that quickly. And normally you've got to put in a bit of work. Zeet, who is 5, has just asked a great question, saying, how do you know when they're not relaxed? So Zeet, typically an animal that's not relaxed is not going to be lying grooming. So these cheetah closest to us, they're actually lying grooming each other. So they're cleaning the blood off each other. And at this distance, we're about 50 yards from them now. So actually, when we stopped initially, they probably ran at about 100 meters. Well, not ran, they got up and walked, but straight away from the vehicle. But now the fact that they're lying down, grooming, they're not even looking at us at all, is a very, very, very sure sign that they are relaxed in the presence of a vehicle. That one that's lying out in the far distance over there that kind of keeps looking around, occasionally looks at us, that is a classic relaxed cheetah posture. You're lying down, head up like that, just taking in its surroundings. Nice and alert, but not nervous. And there's lots of different signs on different animals. You know, you can also get this, what they call displacement behavior. And, you know, you'll even see that in cheetah. You'll see it in elephants. That's animals that are clearly uncomfortable in a particular situation. And they start doing other things to kind of act as a distraction, and that's called displacement behavior. These cheetah are actually, so I don't know what triggered them. Maybe there'd been another vehicle that had come past just before we arrived here, or they do tend to move away from their kills, so they'll feed quickly, and then they'll move away from their kills. So I think we're just going to spend a bit of time as Jean and myself, and this is just good for us and for them.
Can you turn my volume down just a tiny little? We have came across some buffalo. Lots of them, actually. We had a big herd of buffalo this morning as well, but I don't think it's the same herd because we're on a different reserve right now. And it's a breeding herd. And what we mean by that is there's females with offspring, males, and buffaloes of all ages. They can be quite reactive to cars. Sometimes they get a little bit nervous. Let's see if we can go forward, Beaky, and get a little bit of a better look.
So you see, coming back to that question earlier about how do you know if they're relaxed? So you see, there we go. When it lies down like that, then you know it's nice and chilled. And just look at that belly. That belly is nice and round. And when we went past the gemsbok, there was next to nothing left. We can actually have a look at there again later. But on a group like this, a young gemsbok doesn't go far at all. And you can also imagine that they catching things like steenbok, grey duiker, impala. So all these sort of medium-sized and small antelope between, let's say, 4 cheetah. I mean, it's not going to go far at all. And the other thing now that it's dark moon now at Swallow, so there's just a tiny, tiny, tiny little sliver of moon. Otherwise, the nights are pitch black here, apart from starlight. And you tend to find that these cheetah don't move that much on these very, very dark nights, certainly not for hunting purposes. On full moon nights, they will hunt at night properly. And things like spring hare, these little rodents that come out at night, well, they get to like 2 kilograms, give or take. A little bit less, a little bit more sometimes. But, for one cheetah, that's a decent little meal. I'm so pleased we got these. Chandra and I really aren't working for our sightings these past 2 days. I think we need to put in a little bit more effort. I still feel like half bad about seeing that praying. I still feel like half bad about seeing that praying mantis the other day on the open sand. It's like you get the impression that it was placed there, but we really had nothing to do with it. But you get these little gems, and the one thing is, the slower you go in the bush or the outdoors, the more likely you are to see bits and pieces. It's not about covering as much ground as you can. There's other ways of doing that, It's about going slowly, carefully, looking for little things. Hey, that cheetah's having a good roll. There you go. You can see him better now. Okay, we're going to just sit here a little bit more and see what they do.
Sorry about earlier, everyone. We are still with our buffalo-shaped roadblocks. We can't actually go very far when there's all these buffaloes surrounding us. And I think some of them are just relaxing. You tend to find big herds move together, but they're very, very water dependent. So they will move from area to area in search of water. They drink water regularly, and believe it or not, an adult can actually drink up to 35 litres. Think of your big Coke bottle at 1 litre, times 35 of them in one sitting. So that means when they visit the dam or they visit the water body, in a few minutes they can consume 35 litres of water, which is an extraordinary amount. But they're very, very water dependent. And of course, they know that they're the favorite food of lions. They know that at any moment, lions could ambush them. And that's why they are quite nervous around vehicles. The older buffalo can be, well, very grumpy, especially the males. Sometimes the males go off on their own. They're older, most likely injured, and a bit cranky. And we call these ones the dagger boys. But here in front of us right now is a mixed breeding herd. So I don't think anyone's too grumpy. This is a younger one. Can you see this? The size and shape of the horns. As they get older, they get bigger. Mackenzie, you're 12 years old and you're asking how many buffaloes are normally in a herd. We actually use the word herd to as the collective noun to describe a group of buffaloes rather than a pack. And I have seen herds of buffalo in the Masai Mara that are over 500 individuals strong. 500. Now, I don't think they get that big in this area. It's a completely different environment here. It's far more dense with lots of vegetation, but they can still go very, very big, up to the hundreds. Safety in numbers. So you've got to think, if you're a buffalo, it's actually better for you to be surrounded by other buffalo, because at least you have a less likely chance of being picked off by the lions. If there's only 5 of you, then you have a 1 in 5 chance. But if there's 100 of you, then you have a 1 in 100 chance of being the chosen one. Okay, so we're going to try to navigate our way through these buffalo and explore the rest of Simbambili.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to And Beyond Ngala. We have just got such a cute little sighting of one of these little spur fowls with a tiny, tiny little chick. And she's being very obliging. Usually you literally just see them dashing across the road. But luckily enough, the grass is nice and short in this area. And so if we just hang it out a little bit, we'll see that tiny, it literally looks like a small little fluff ball. My name is Eric, and Owen is behind camera. There is his thumb. She looks like she's still in the same spot there, and she's digging around, scratching, looking for something to feed on, and that really, really small little chick was directly behind it. She's got her head up now. Can you see her, Owen? There we go, yeah. Yeah, Owen is just saying, as soon as she put her head down, she was so camouflaged with the grass, it was difficult to find her again. But you literally just look basically between her legs and you'll see this really, really small little chick. See, as she picks up her head, and you look at the color of her face, that red, red, red eye and the red throat. So that's how we know it's a Swainson spur fowl. There's a nice patch of short grass here that she's scuffling around in. So if she moves any more forward, hopefully we'll see the chick again. And unfortunately, just one. I mean, usually these spur fowls will give birth to sometimes up to 10 eggs at a time. But she, unfortunately, seems like she's just got one left. And as soon as you see it, you'll understand how vulnerable they are. I mean, to anything, to birds of prey, to snakes, to small little predators like genets and wildcats, and even leopards would probably be interested in a small little bird like this. Yeah, she's coming. It's interesting to see how much she moves her feet to scrape the grass away, just to get to the little seeds and the insects. Okay, so we might just stick around here to see if we can show you the small little chick again. But in the meantime, we'll send you across to James, who's got another mother and youngster.
Here we have got something a little bit bigger than a spur fowl baby, and that is, of course, a magnificent elephant herd. They're spread out throughout the woodland here on the banks of one of the streams that flows through Djuma. And they're looking for green food to eat. And quite a few of them, I'd say there are about 12. Most of them have passed through this area and they've gone into some thicker bush. I'm just going to go a little bit forward because we might get a look at the big bull. I think it's a big bull flapping about a little bit further in the bush there. Can you see him there?
Yeah.
No, it's a cow. It's a big cow. Here she comes. There she goes. And then there are a couple more in front of us now. There's a little one who's grazing or browsing precariously on the banks of this tributary. There we are. They're getting on with the very serious business of feeding. There's no rumbling or talking between them. It's just a whole lot of very serious feeding sounds. Tearing grass, rustling leaves and breaking wood. I think they've also been digging in the sand in the stream behind us, where there's no running water, but there is water beneath the surface. Hello, Reese. You are 11 years old and wondering why elephants look old from the day they're born, why they've got such wrinkly skin. Reese, they've got wrinkly skin to increase the surface area. Now, that's quite a difficult concept unless you've done a little bit of physics, which at age 11, I don't think you probably have. But what it means is that they've got more skin than it appears they need, if that makes sense. And how that helps is that it allows them to lose more heat more easily. Now, the reason they need to do that is that they are very big. And because they are so big, it's quite difficult for them to cool down when they have to. It's quite difficult for them to warm up as well if they get very cold. But they've got that wrinkled skin so that they can increase the amount of skin, and that helps them to lose heat. Is that a decent answer for you, Reese? I think that pretty much explains it. I'm not sure, however, why it is that baby elephants have got skin almost as wrinkled as adult elephants, because baby elephants will definitely not have the same trouble as a big bull elephant in losing heat. Julianne, you're just 4 years old and wondering how on earth you know the difference between a boy elephant and a girl elephant. Julianne, it's actually not very easy to tell at all. When they are that age there, as the ones we can see over there, it's impossible to tell because they haven't differentiated at all, so they don't look any different when they're that age. When they're adults, well, then it's a little bit easier because, a bit like adult human beings, if you look between their front legs, they've got mammary glands on the chest or breasts, and that is how you tell the difference between an adult female elephant or a mother elephant and a father elephant, which doesn't have that, just like human beings. But when they're little, not possible to tell. Julianne, you're also wondering why they flap their ears. It's a very good question because they do it all the time, don't they? Especially when they go out into the sun. And that also helps them to stay cool. They like to stay cool, especially in the brain. Now, there are lots of parts of your body that can function if they're a little bit hot or a little bit cold, or they maybe don't have the right nutrients or whatever it is. But there's one part of your body that really needs to stay at the perfect temperature all the time, because it controls everything else, and that's your brain. And so an elephant must keep its brain very cool, and it does that by flapping its ears, and that cools down the blood in the ears, and that sends that blood into the brain, and the brain stays cool that way. So it's very important that the brain doesn't overheat. It's the same for us as it is for elephants. We just don't cool our brains down by flapping our ears. We have other ways, like standing in the shade or wearing a hat. But in any animal, if the brain overheats, that's very bad news. Everything else will start to shut down. Zeke, I don't know what the origins of the term browsing are, but basically we refer to animals that eat the leaves off trees as browsers, and we refer to the animals that eat the leaves of grasses as grazers. And I don't know why or what so I'm going to teach you a fancy word now. I don't know what the etymology of the word browse is. So etymology is the study of where words come from. And I don't know what the etymology of the word browse is, I'm afraid. But we say they browse because they're eating trees. And an elephant is a mixed feeder, so they browse and graze. This is very exciting. TAYLA has managed to catch up with a kitty in a tree.
We have indeed, but I must warn you that if you are afraid of carcasses or blood, then you might want to look away, although it is quite adorable because there is a little cub in the tree that is feeding on the duiker carcass. We'll have a look now. We'll zoom in a bit closer. Well, it's not the best view, I'm afraid, but we are just sitting at a distance, just watching carefully. And I've got some exciting news to tell you. There isn't one, but there are 2 cubs, which is unbelievable because we thought that she had lost them all. Now, we're not sure if this is the same female that had 3 cubs that were sighted a couple of weeks ago, or if it was a different female. It's very difficult to say. There is a lot of leopard activity in this area. Although we don't always get to see them, we see their tracks moving around all the time. But there's one of them, and I'm happy. The other one is just hiding away at the moment. It's just on the ground. It's not eating on the carcass. It's having a siesta. They've been very playful the whole day, so we have started the habituation process because we don't know how many vehicles these cubs have seen. So basically what that entails is us spending a lot of time with these leopards and them getting used to the sound of our voices, and then also getting used to ours. There's the other little cub just laying in the grass. Well spotted, Gat. You can see it just in there, getting annoyed by all the flies. Come and join your sibling up in a tree. Better up there. And all been playing the rotation game. So I was here this morning, and then Norman came out, and he sat with the cubs for a bit, and now we're back here. But we were very relieved to hear that there was more than one cub. And we did have them early this morning. Mom was up the tree with one of the cubs feeding, and then she eventually climbed down and laid under the bushes, and the little one fed up in the tree. So you can't see Mom either, but she's just sitting on the floor at the base of the tree. So she is here. We wouldn't be viewing these cubs if Mom wasn't close by. Iris, normally leopards only have about 2 cubs, but they can have 3 or 4, but it's, quite uncommon. So normally 1 or 2 is the amount that we typically see. And this female leopard is a young leopard. She's not very old. So we did some digging, a couple of us, Thank you to Ryan Thompson for all the photographic evidence. He's been driving around in Jijani, and then James Richards has also been helping. But it's a female leopard, so there she is. There she must be eating some of the stomach content, or at least something. She has been known as the Pixie Pan female. She's only about 4 years old or so she's quite young. So this might even be her first litter. You can see how she's scraping the ground now. So she was. I think the stomach had fallen out. It was dangling from the daycare this morning, and it's dropped to the floor. So she's being a very good mom. She knows there's been lots of hyenas and things around, and she's got 2 little cubs, so she wants to hide the scent. Oh, there she's contact calling. She was just maybe calling the other little cub has gone wandering. She's saying, stay close by. So now she's just going to cover that with sand and all the vegetation to help hide that smell. But the hyenas know that there is a kill here and that it is up in the tree. They're waiting for all the little bits on the floor. Avia, now, leopards don't get to eat every single day, unfortunately. We call these big cats opportunistic feeders. So basically what that means is that they only eat when they're able to catch something. So they'll go days and days without eating food. But they'll eat a fair few kilograms. So basically these leopards have just been continuously feeding. She's calling the cubs, the mom now. She's making some grumbling. Okay, maybe you can hear them. So she'll eat. They've just been eating the whole day, and they'll eat until there's nothing left. There isn't much left on the carcass now, but there's still something. The little cub is coming out. I think it's going to climb up the tree. Yeah, it's going. Oh no, going back to where Mom was. There we go. Little cub is looking up. And that's typical for for leopards just in general. When they decide which tree they're going to go up, it's always nice. You watch them and they'll look up at as if to go, which is the best route to take? And now if you're a little leopard like this, oh, it's precious. Look at the other one is sitting out on the fork now. Now, young Julianne, who's only 4 years old, you've inquired about why do leopards climb trees? Oh, look at that. You are so cute. Isn't that precious? So it's very important for leopards to be able to climb trees, and they're built to climb trees. You've seen they've got those lovely long tails. They've got well-built shoulders, but they're not too big and bulky like lions. So it means that they can be quite agile in the trees. And one of the things that leopards do to sort of help them survive out here is that they'll take their carcasses, their food, up into trees to hide them from lions, from other leopards, from hyenas especially, which is really awesome. So they spend a lot of time up in the trees. They feel quite safe up there and very comfortable, even when you're only a few months old. Look at those big bellies. So one of these little cubs is a female. I think that's the female there. I haven't seen the sex of the other cub because yesterday I thought that there was just the one. I don't know where the other was. Mom must have had it hidden away somewhere. Or maybe it was just even further up in the branches of the tree and we didn't see it. Oh, full belly. Probably exhausted now, all sprawled out. And pretending to be a big leopard and now licking its paws. Are you going to climb down and go and join your sibling and your mother? Yes, now watch this. Oh, full belly. Hasn't quite got the technique yet, so it's going to probably slip and slide. There it goes. Easy does it. Just doing this step by step. You can see holding on desperately with its claws. It's definitely put its claws out now. There we go, you can see it. Luckily it's a knobthorn. It's got some nice bark. Oh, hold on. Yes, we're watching you. You're being very graceful. Not too far from the floor now, so it's okay if it plops out onto the ground. And did the fireman sort of sail down the trunk of the tree. Well done, you'll get better at that. But I hope that all of you, or all the children of the world, enjoyed today's show. It sounds like you've had an exciting day, and I'm glad that we managed to get you some leopard cub action too. But we'll see you again tomorrow on the Sunrise Safari.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
That was really cool. I wish I had my camera. We are watching a fork-tailed drongo having a conversation with a huge elephant bull. I think the fork-tailed drongo is winning this debate here. They are not scared. It keeps bombing the elephant, and of course, it's just waiting for any sort of delicious delicacy that might be upturned by the elephant walking across the grass. This is my first elephant I've had in a while, and it's magnificent to see a big bull like this in the open clearing. He's completely alone, and he's huge. He doesn't appear to show any immediate signs of must. A lot of the elephant activity has died down of late. And I don't think he's in must, but I want to get a better look at him once he pops out from the other side of this termite mound. Or maybe we should drive forward. What do you think, Beaks? Okay, I'm going to go a little bit forward to give a better view of this boy. The drongo's still on top of that termite mound. There we go. Hello, handsome. He is huge. From what I can see, that's it, we're going to get a view. Yes, if you look at his left ear, it's very tattered. I think he's an older bull. He's not streaming at his temporal glands. He's not dribbling urine. I don't think he's in must. He's just a bull enjoying some delicious grass. Possibly a gentleman. Normally, once a bull gets around about 40 years or older, we call them gentlemen, because they learn how to handle their sort of hormonal surges of testosterone during must. They're experienced. And they just generally tend to be more gentle. Can you hear that drongo, BK? It's right there. This is the one that's making all the noise. This is not a happy fork-tailed drongo. You see that? That's a perfect view of the forked tail. Look how forked it is. Let's take a listen. Ah, that's why there's two of them. I wondered why it was noisy all of a sudden. It was just perched in that russet bush willow because there's another fork-tailed drongo trying to take over this elephant. Clearly, it's very possessive over this bull. It's huge. You just take a little closer look at the bottom of his ears, Beaks. Very, very damaged, very tattered. You see that? And it's just thin skin after all. There's only cartilage at the very, very top to maintain its structure. Otherwise, the ears are just very thin skin and they can tear so easily. And they're so thin to allow for heat loss. An elephant's ears can actually release up to 75% of the heat. But on a cold day, because it's winter, they can actually hold their ears very, very close to the body, and this is actually a way of conserving heat. It's amazing. Thermoregulation through ears. But the reason they're so large, especially for African elephants, much bigger than Asian elephants, is because they constitute 20% of the elephant's surface area. And that's exactly why they release so much heat. I think we're going to try and stay with this Ellie bull a little bit longer and see what he gets up to.
We moved away from that little spur fowl and her chick. She didn't really show the chick to us again. So we decided to carry on, and we started heading back into the area of where we saw tracks of a leopard crossing the river. And then we saw vultures that looked like they were almost dropping down into the trees. And we even saw a hyena crossing the river. So we thought that's pretty promising signs for us. And then what could have been even more promising were these two eagles that were in the tree. And these eagles, if you look at them, very, very brown in color, quite mottled, and they're called tawny eagles. And we got quite excited because these tawny eagles are sometimes one of the first birds that are around a carcass that's seen, and then the vultures follow it. But upon further inspection, looking at just the two of them, this is a nesting pair of tawny eagles that we've actually been seeing around the area. And so it looks like the two of them are just sitting in the tree, probably just waiting for the sun to go down before they return back to their nest, which isn't too far away from here. It's quite close by, actually. It's just a couple of trees over to the left, I think. But there's not too much more, in my opinion, majestic than a big eagle, and especially a pair of them sitting on a big branch like this. There's just something about their look. Is always quite special. See, I mean, how big that tree is and how they stand out. You can just see those two very tall shapes at the top of the tree over there. And so these birds will be predominantly looking for things to scavenge and hunt. And they're pretty unselective, so they can feed on pretty much any sort of carrion or any meat that they can find. And so that's why vultures spend quite a bit of time looking at what these tawny eagles are up to, because they're slightly smaller than vultures. They're much lighter flyers, so they can fly in less favorable conditions. And if they're up in a tree waiting for lions to finish a carcass or a leopard to move on, these vultures will definitely come and check it in. So what we think was actually happening with those vultures a little bit earlier on is it could be some mating pairs that were almost sort of displaying and chasing each other around, because they didn't stay around for too long. Okay. Now these birds are not moving too much, but TAYLA's got some exciting animals that are on the move, so let's go and see what she's got.
Nice to see birds in the sky. So we're still just sitting here. Oh, sorry, I've got all sorts of flies buzzing about my face, as this leopard has around her ears. So that is the mother, and this is what we hope. Well, I don't know if the names will change. This is just the names that have been given to her, so they could change at some point, but for now we will call her the Pixie Pan female. And obviously, this is my second time seeing her. She's fine. She's actually not too bad with the vehicles. You can imagine she's a little bit protective with young cubs. I think this could be her first litter. I don't know if she's had cubs before. It's difficult to tell. Because like I said, she's only just coming into her 4th year now of life. So won't be a very experienced mother. It must be so difficult for her out here with so many hyenas around, because there are plenty. And I'm still confused as to where the second cub was hiding last night. I'm just trying to think, did I miss it sitting in the tree somewhere? I mean, it's quite a big knobthorn with lots of branches, or was it just tucked away under another shrub? You can see one of the cubs just moving off there. Bizarre. Anyways, that's not the first time that her cubs seem to do these little disappearing acts. Oh, she's also rolling over. The cubs must be so full now, having something to eat, and then, of course, I'm sure still suckling, but maybe giving Mom a bit of a break. She's lovely. Now, she's got a very unique pattern above her left eye, which hopefully, if she does turn and the acacia tree is not in the way, we'll be able to see quite nicely. it's going to be in the way. But you'll see that's what we've been using to ID her. And then she's still got tatty ears, not super tatty, but she has got some nicks in them. Almost impossible, we can't see the left side of her face. But we'll worry about that at some point. We'll definitely be posting pictures of some great ways to ID her once I get a clear shot of her head. So if she would be kind enough to come and stand out in the open at some point, that would be much appreciated. It's nice to use the screenshots, but they just... What is that sound? Sorry, I've just taken my earpiece out. Maybe it's a bird. It's like this weird, really, really weird, high-pitched sound. Sorry, I've just took my earpiece out for a moment. I got excited. I thought it was maybe a wild dog, but it's not a wild dog. Tawny, it's not uncommon for leopards to have blue eyes, that's for sure. You kind of see a variation of a greenish color to the lighter blues. I suppose it's maybe as special as humans having blue or green eyes. You know, typically you see people with brown eyes, and then out here we have leopards that have more golden colored eyes. So I don't think it's too uncommon. I've seen a fair few in East Africa, in Zambia, here in South Africa especially. But they are special. I mean, there's something quite gorgeous about a leopard with light-colored eyes, especially if you catch the right light. But they're not super blue. They're definitely much lighter in color. Trying to think, I don't think any of the leopards that you see in the Sabi Sand have got blue eyes. Tandi's one of her sons, he had sort of the lightest colored eyes. Otherwise, everybody kind of had golden eyes, if I remember correctly. She won't put her head down. She doesn't want to relax. And it's just because her cubs are wandering. One of them has ventured off to the other side of her and was, you know, just sort of climbing about on some of the bush willows. I can't see it anymore, but the grass is so tall here. We're really fortunate to have the cameras and to have the camera sitting high up like it is. Otherwise, we wouldn't see a thing. If I could show you what I see, I basically just see the tops of her ears from where I am. So it's really nice that Gert is sitting a little bit higher up and can see over the tall grass. And this is the difficult thing, is that everybody's so excited about seeing leopards and seeing leopard cubs, but the reality is you don't get to see such a nice view of them all the time during this habituation process. You normally would see what I just described to you. But I suppose that's just one of the many wonderful things that you'll get to experience while on these live safaris.
I know. It's a pleasure. You know, I try to think of these things for you. Because if I don't, you won't. Huh? If we're alive, we love you all. So this little Jax is at the carcass now. We were just saying, if we're alive, we love you all. And then they came straight to us. We had a moment we treated ourselves there. That was quite funny. But, yeah, so anyhow, these cheetah now, they're about 300 meters due south of where we are now. And these jackals, they've been kind of hovering in the background the entire time without coming in because of the proximity of the cheetah. But at least Jandre and I, we kind of finally figured out, yeah, it is a mother with 3 big cubs. Yeah, well, not big. They kind of just under sub-adult cubs. So they've left very, very little on this carcass for this jackal. But we really thought there were five cheetah when we went in there. But anyway, unless we're still missing one. But so as they've moved further south, these little jacks are starting to come in and say, yeah, okay, cool. There's a nice meal there for us. Yes, they are wily, eh? These little animals do not miss a beat. And there's a reason for that. I mean, they're small animals. They can fall prey to pretty much anything out here. You know, leopards, caracal are known to predate on jackal, and particularly jackal pups they'll go for. And And then obviously things like lions, cheetah, these bigger carnivores that take them. And relating that back to cheetah, it's well known cheetah are quite timid and cats, but there's a good reason for that. Fruit Loop has just asked, do any other animals hunt jackal? And they do. You'll get things like caracal that will kill jackal, and especially the youngs, the pups. Leopards are well known for taking jackal, adults and youngsters. Jackal, interspecific competition, jackal and jackal, they've known to kill each other as well. That's not normally for food, that's territorial, so injuries, they'll succumb to that. So there's plenty of things that'll take a jackal. Your large raptors, things like martial eagle, they wouldn't be averse, crowned eagles, they wouldn't be averse to catching a jackal if it was unwary. But what I was saying in terms of predation and your question there about what else would take jackal, I mean, cheetah are generally regarded as quite a timid cat. People talk about leopards and lions. They're like, oh, leopards are so brave and lions are big and strong and they catch buffalo and do crazy things. But cheetah, they're quite these timid little things. Ooh, he's got a nice tasty morsel there. Carrying them off. But they've compromised on being tough for speed. Cheetah needs speed to catch prey. So they've sacrificed bulk and strength for speed. So anyway, we're just going to follow this jackal a little bit more and see what he gets up to. And we'll be back.
Welcome back to And Beyond Pinder Private Game Reserve. And we have found something really, really special. Well, actually, I'm taking credit for it. Someone else found it, but there are two black rhino ahead of us here, which I'm sure a lot of you know are very, very rare animals nowadays and extremely hard to find. And so this, especially for us, is really, really special. So for some of you who might not have watched too many of these, or maybe never been on safari before, or never seen rhinos, the difference between the black and the white rhino is first and foremost what they feed on. So these black rhino are browsers, which means they feed off of trees and little bushes and herbs. And so there's not many trees around here, but there are quite a few little bushes close to them. And to tell from a distance so that what they eat gives rise to the first big difference between them, which is the shape of their mouth. Now this black rhino, if we get a good view when it's looking towards us, have a look at its mouth and you'll see that it's very pointed. It's got like a pointed lip in the front, whereas a white rhino, being a grazer that eats grass, has a very big, wide, square mouth that they use to get right down to the ground. But another big difference and a good way to tell from far if you see a rhino, whether it's white or black, and especially with a side view like we've got now, if you look at either of them, in the middle of their back is a big, like saddle. It dips right down. Whereas a white rhino's actually got quite a bit more of an extra hump in the middle of its back almost. Hi, Anushka. That is a good question and one that we get quite often. With the rhino being so big, that's their biggest way of keeping safe. A lot of animals don't even try to chase a rhino just because they know how big they are. And, the only rhino that would be under threat from any of the predators would be a small baby rhino with lions. And as long as that small baby rhino has its mother close by, those lions are not going to come close anyway. because the mother's just so big and so powerful that the lions will automatically be scared of her. Now, I've also just noticed, and I'm just going to use binoculars quickly, but there are another 2 rhinos. Hey, look at that. Okay, there's another 2 rhinos. Marcel, go a bit to the right. Can you see them? Oh, you're already on them? Oh, no. See, quite up there. So there's another 2 rhinos a bit further up the hill that look like white rhinos. So it looks like in one view here, we have white and black rhinos. Now, straight away, those ones further up on the hill that you're looking at now, have a look in the middle of their back and you'll see that extra little hump that I'm talking about. You see that little extra hump in the middle of its back? Okay, so they're probably a bit far away to see the shape of the mouth, which is that big other difference that I told you. But it's really special to see both of these different types of rhinos now.
Welcome back to Djuma, or Simbambili. We're looking at zebras. A dazzle me, matey. Consider me dazzled, zebra. It is fabulous to see you. It's been a while since I've actually seen zebra, and this is a youngster. This is a foal. Now, the oxpeckers have been going in some sensitive regions, which I can't imagine has been too pleasant for this young foal. But so far, it seems to be very relaxed. At one point, it had 4 oxpeckers on it. It's very calm. Sometimes zebras can be flighty. Isn't it gorgeous? There's more. We've got a small herd here, but this youngster is just far too cute. I'm not sure I would enjoy all of these oxpeckers going in sensitive regions, but maybe it could be really relaxing for the animals, like a mini massage. Now imagine when they pull out ticks, it would be very, very unpleasant. And lots of animals out here, mainly your herbivores, they will flinch. It's not pleasant to get ticks pulled out your skin. And of course, oxpeckers have a reputation now for being more vampire-like than actually assisting the animals. They keep a lot of wounds open and they feed on the blood. Yes, oxpecker, we're talking about you. Hitching a free ride on the zebra here. I think this zebra's real. I hope it's real. Maybe it's a statue. And of course, everyone, don't forget to send in your questions, because we are live and interactive all across South Africa. And we're here to answer all your questions that you may have, or at least try to. This is so sweet. And there's lots of science and studies going into the black and white stripes, because it's so against the grain of sort of being in an environment like this. And it really does have thermoregulation properties. So for zebra, because black and white, they're not really colours, I guess, they're shades, absorb heat differently. Black absorbs, white reflects. That means that there's actually sort of convection air movements all across the body of a zebra. On a very, very small scale, of course, but the convection currents are created by the different temperatures of each stripe. And the black stripes are said to be about 12, depending on where you are, of course, on average, 12 to 15 degrees hotter than the white stripes. The white stripes have been much, much cooler, and this actually creates very, very small scale convection currents across the zebra's body, which I just think is fascinating, and it's said to really, really assist in thermoregulation. It's actually said, just like the elephant, it's said to disperse up to 70% of the incoming heat. So that's how animals like this survive the heat in hot, dry areas. Jenna, you're asking about the hair on a zebra's neck. Very similar to a horse. And it's just the hair on top of the head. It normally stands very, very erect like this. Oh, the oxpeckers are now going in the ear. Ouchie. I can't think what's worse. Makes the animal look bigger, fiercer, but if you're ever wondering if a zebra's unwell, there's a sort of key feature that you can look at, and normally when a zebra's really not feeling well, the hair that stands upright will actually flop over to the side, and it's a good indicator that that particular individual is really, really not well. So most mammals that have hair sort of standing up on their head like this, it actually makes them look bigger. It makes them look more fierce, just like hyenas. It gives an optical illusion of being a little bit bigger. It's very, very similar to a horse. It's a great mohawk. This little foal is rocking it, finally moving. It's not a statue. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4 oxpeckers. 4. And they're all clinging on. How sweet. I think it's going to join Mum. Zebras always look full. They always have a massive stomach. It's bulging, and it's actually mainly gas. They're hindgut fermenters. And they're very, very gassy animals, yes. You can hear them. And that's why their stomachs are so swollen. It's so lovely to see zebra again. Anushka, yes, we mainly see red-billed oxpeckers here. You do get yellow-billed too, but they tend to attach themselves to different herbivores, especially the likes of rhino. But out here, mostly we see the red-billed oxpeckers. They're very closely related, of course. I'm sure I don't need to tell you the physical differences. One has a red bill, one has a yellow bill. But yes, it's mainly the red bills that we see out here. But they're very, very similar in their lifestyle, in that they do hitch ride on herbivores and pluck out the parasites and ticks, and that's how they feed. But it's just not determined. There's a big argument in science. Are they mutually symbiotic with the herbivore that they choose to hitch a ride on, or are they parasitic? And from what I can gather, it's very much a 50-50 argument. Some people think they are mutually beneficial, and some people think they're slightly parasitic, in that they're not giving anything back to the herbivore, but they're drinking the blood. They keep wounds open, and that can, of course, promote infection, which can ultimately lead to the death of the animal. So I think, in my personal opinion, it's a little bit of both. I don't think they're intentionally parasitic, but yes, I do think they keep wounds open on animals, which is detrimental to that animal itself. Tick load, of course, and parasite load is normal in all the animals out here. But once it goes above a threshold, that's normally an indicator that that particular individual is not well. Okay, I think this has been such a wonderful sighting of this little foal. Hopefully we can get past, but for now, we're going to send you guys back across to Pinda with the beautiful rhino.
Welcome back to these black rhino with us again. The sun is starting to go down a bit. The light is becoming more soft, and it's actually really perfect on these rhinos now. As you can see, the one on the right is quite a bit bigger than the one on the left. And what this pair is a mother on the right-hand side, and her, quite old now, but her calf on the other side of her. Now that calf must already be, you can see it's even almost the same height. It must be a good probably around about 2 years old. But already growing quite big. Now, also, just when we first found them, we were talking about the shape of their noses, or their lips, should I say. And with them facing us now, this is a really perfect opportunity. Have a look at how that lip just goes down to a point in the end. And what that does is it really helps them just to grip hold of the branches that they're going to be feeding off. And their lips are quite long and they move around a lot. And they can pull it right back into the teeth. Because if you have a look at the skull of a rhino, the teeth are actually quite far back. So they have to pull the branches in quite far to be able to chew them. Hi, Jenna. So a female rhino in her lifetime, she can live up to about 40 years old, and she will have a calf every 3 years. So she would probably, also it'll take her a few years to become active and be able to have young babies. But I would say she would probably have at least 10. Possibly even 1 or 2 more, but probably around about 10 or so calves in her lifetime. So that's quite a lot, but in the same breath, it's only every around about 3 years, sometimes even 3.5 years, that they will have a baby. So if you look at it that way, maybe it's not so often. But luckily there's, with them being so big, predation on them by other animals is very rare. Just a sight like this, we see a lot more white rhino than we do black rhino, but a sight like this of 2 black rhino right out in the open, we are quite far away from them, probably 100 meters or maybe slightly more, maybe about 100 meters, and that's because they are just naturally quite nervous animals. They prefer to be in the thicker bush where they are better hidden. Whereas a white rhino is very happy to be out in the open and feeding off of grass. So we're actually just giving these black rhinos plenty space. We don't want to scare them off. We don't want to make them stressed or anything like that. Give them plenty of room. And now, with this distance, we're able to just watch them just doing what they do naturally, because they aren't even aware that we are here. Well, just like we're watching these rhinos at quite a distance, we're going to send you across to James quickly, who's watching some elephants also from a bit of a distance.
Well, we've come off onto the banks of another little tributary, and here is the elephant herd that we had earlier. They're a long way from where they were before. And we were hopefully searching for Thandi. Now, Thandi the leopardess was left in this block where the elephants are this morning by another guide from the area. We have had no luck with their tracks at all, so we'll just enjoy the elephants, I think. I thought for a moment that they were going to head off towards a waterhole nearby, and they seem now to be heading up the banks here. Now, if they come across the leopard, they'll make a loud trumpeting noise. See, their trunks can get hurt. They also can lose them. And you do see elephants with half a trunk or a third of a trunk missing, sometimes even more than that. And that's normally from an injury inflicted by a human being. So sometimes people put wire snares out, and that's a piece of wire that's out to catch something like an impala so that that person can eat the impala. But often it'll catch something like an elephant, and the elephant's tusk or trunk can then actually be cut off almost. But it's very unusual. So it's not often that that happens. All right, let's first follow them. They've walked off into some thick stuff there. We'll go on a little 4x4 adventure. That's a good question, Susan. The elephant's trumpet, Susan, comes from its nose. So it's from the trunk. Comes from the trunk. But they scream out of their mouths, and a lot of people don't realize that if they haven't heard them do it. They make a loud screaming sound out of the voice box or the larynx, and they make that low, deep rumbling sound out of the larynx as well. But when they make that loud trumpeting noise, that comes them bring air through the nose. Now she came right to the top, the tuskless cow who seems to be leading this herd. She came right to the top here and kind of looked at us as if to say, I want to go down there. So we moved out of her way, and then they decided to go up this way. Have a small piece of stick attached to the front of the car. That is a no mind. Oh, a bit of a log. The light is very beautiful right now, so we can catch up with the elephants, and if they're nice and relaxed, we'll get a good sighting. They seem to be pretty relaxed, as long as we don't make a huge noise around them. It's nice and clear through here, just on the left there, feeding in a thicket. I'll just get through this little... No, I won't. We'll stop here. Sorry, my dear. I do apologize. I didn't mean to make a noise like that. Chevy, I can't ever remember seeing an elephant touch its tail with its trunk, but I may have seen it. I can't remember them doing it. I'm sure it would be possible. Well, I'm not sure how much control they have over the tail. Right, so what she's doing is a classic feeding behavior for this time of the year. She's moving tree out of the way so that she can eat the green grass that's still in the shade of the trees. Now, I think the grass is preferable to them in many respects because it doesn't have... She's just hitting away the dry stuff now and trying to get to some wet grass. It's a little bit easier to digest because it doesn't have the same chemicals in it that many tree leaves have. And so if elephants can graze, they often do. There we go, now throwing off some dust. One imagines that her eyes might be in some danger of being spiked by that bush.
We just stopped with this magnificent giraffe bull. This is a huge, huge, huge animal. And look at those, yeah, we kind of call them horns, generally speaking, but they correctly termed ossicones. So those big knobbly protrusions on top of the head. But if he turns his head, you can actually see the way Gendre's framed it up there. You'll see if he turns his head on the back, there'll be these two or three big lumps, and then also between the horns on the front, so between the eyes and the front horns, you often get this kind of ridged growth there as well. And what's happening there is you get these old bulls, the head, that mass of the head is growing consistently throughout its life. So what that means is when they're fighting, and you may have seen it, the bulls stand side on like that and they start swinging their necks and they're hitting each other like that. Most of that is kind of sparring, but in serious fights, there you can see those bumps on the head perfectly now. Look at that. If he turns a little bit more, you'll see it better. But basically, an adult bull like this, a huge bull like this, and he's, 5.5 meters plus, they've just got these bigger, heavier heads and stronger necks, and that means they can actually hit harder. And there are enough records, that bear witness or evidence to how hard they can hit in cases where bulls fighting, one bull has actually knocked its adversary out completely. And there's actually really interesting accounts of lions having caught giraffe bulls that had been knocked unconscious. And so I mean, these guys can hit incredibly hard. So when you see them just sparring, that is kind of like practice for as they get old and become more dominant. But I think we're just going to spend as much time as we can with this giraffe. This is an absolutely lovely sighting.
We haven't even moved a muscle. We've just been sitting here watching this leopardess as she relaxes in the grass. Now, I know... Sorry, everybody. There's another vehicle coming into the sighting, so she might just be getting a little bit nervous about that. But don't worry. This is all just a part of the habituation process. And like I said, she might just be a little bit nervous of her cubs. It's also getting to that time of the day where the sun is starting to set and the hyenas know that she is here. So and she has to be careful, which is why she's on such high alert at the moment. But she's been very relaxed with us the whole time. She's been rolling over. She called the cubs a little bit. The cubs are all doing their own thing. One is completely gone on a little mission, which is typical of a naughty leopard cub. And the other one is not laying too far away from mom, so she just tucked away in the bushes. But they're so camouflaged in the long grass and underneath the sour plum that it'll be almost impossible for us to see them. So like I was saying, this lovely leopard is called a pixie pan female, in case you have just joined us, and she's fairly young. I did get a date of when they were suspected to be born, somewhere in April 2016. And she did have a litter mate, also a female, that is quite relaxed and seen fairly regularly in Jajani. Now, with regards to this leopard's mother, she was called the fig tree female, but unfortunately, they haven't seen her for the last couple of years. So since this female and her sister, which they named the Des Moines female, left their loved mother about 2 years ago or so, they haven't really seen her. They suspected that she sort of moved east to a big river system called the Mohlabetsi, which basically runs in another reserve that we can drive around in called Kwenga. And that also, sort of, it heads up and I think it goes all the way into the Klaseri, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a huge system. It's beautiful. I hope to be able to show it to you one day. So that's just sort of the lineage that we have. We also don't know who the father is of these cubs, but if you remember the Shimungwe male, the first leopard that we showed you here at Pridelands, he was seen mating with her last year. So he definitely could have been mating with her. And I actually saw that male leopard this morning. I can't believe I forgot to tell you. We actually had an incredible drive where we had this lot all here around the tree and up feeding on the daycare, and then we heard lion contact calls, which have been heard throughout the day, so they're not too far away either. And we thought, okay, let's just give these guys a bit of a break. Let's go have a look for the lions. And then we didn't find the lions. We found a big male leopard, and it was him. It was the Shimungwe male, and he was actually heading in this direction. And it seems like he has been seen socializing with this female. And as we're starting to realize as well, it's not uncommon for leopards to socialize just because we don't see it all the time, and leopards are notoriously shy animals. Lucky enough, though, when they do become habituated, we start to see these, well, shall I call them strange behaviors? I don't think that they're so strange. But, I think he's the dominant male within this female's territory. So very exciting, and he's quite relaxed. So I think that it's not going to be a problem. The cubs don't mind the cars at all. They just carry on and do their thing, which is very exciting. So it's not going to be too long, I think, before everybody completely settles down. I just hope that we're able to keep seeing her and she doesn't do another disappearing act on us. But exciting times to watch these two grow. But we'll sit here for a bit longer and see if they get a second wind and become a little bit playful.
It's very exciting watching leopards grow up. We are now with our herd in a slightly more open area. Unfortunately, every single one of them, of the 15 or so that we have here, are showing us what I consider to be their least, well, no, maybe not their least, but not their best angles. Literally every single one of the herd is giving us a butt shot. We'll just move in here where there are a few more in the sun and we can see their heads. How's that, David? There we are. There's a very, very small one just coming from the right there. Hopefully it will come out into the open. Now, if we go to the left while we wait for the little one to come out, we will see the elephants eating the Pterocarpus rotundifolius, or the round leaf teak. And you can see they've stripped the leaves off. They'll eat some of those stalks and then move off. And as I've said to many of you before, those trees you can make furniture out of in the absence of elephants. So there are these huge, big, fat stumps under the ground from where they've been repeatedly cut off over the years. And they won't get any bigger than these kind of coppice thickets that you can see in front of you while there are elephants around, because at this time of the year, the elephants love them. Let's have a listen to all of them feeding. They're a little bit like toddlers with their trunks. They take about two years or so to really kind of master their trunks. But, you know, it's a staged thing. It's not, you know, when a toddler first stands up, it's not like they can then go and run the 100 meters in 10 seconds. They're very unsteady on their feet for a while, and then slowly the nerves and muscles do what they're supposed to do, and the toddler learns to run and to be much more steady and to balance. And so it is with the trunk, which is a very complex network of nerves and muscles. And so they can probably effectively pick things up maybe after a year or so, but they don't have full mastery over it, and it'll probably take 2 years before they fully master the use of the trunk. Here we are being assailed by a vicious elephant. Good afternoon. They are very scared of you. I have a lovely view of him. He's just behind a bit of a tree for you, I'm afraid. Bless you, David. Is it the dust? He just wanted his picture taken, actually. Luke, I don't think they do, you know. They are very careful about shaking out the grasses that they pick up. And they also, you know, when they pick a leaf or something like that, it's quite vicious. So any insect that's sitting there minding its own business is probably going to be shaken off or get a fright and fly off. But they must. It's impossible that they can eat as much as they do and not ever get an insect in their mouths. Especially, you know, if you come out here on a misty morning and you realize how many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of spiders there are here, they must be eating spiders all the time. And not only that, they're obviously picking up a whole lot of fungi, bacteria, and various other little things on the leaves that they eat. Aphids. Zeke, I think you'll probably find that the elephant's favorite tree is the marula tree, because the marula tree makes beautifully sweet fruits in January and February. And so I think you'll probably find that that's an elephant's favorite tree by some margin. Let's just be quiet. That is the call of the pearl-spotted owl. They often call it this time of the day. It's two of them. All right, we'll keep following these elephants for a little while, I think. Let's go back to TAYLA now and the cute little cubs.
This is absolute cuteness, as you can see. So one of the little cubs that had wandered off just to the east of where Mom was sitting has decided to come out to look at us, I think. I suppose we must be quite amusing for these young cubs too, as they haven't spent too much time with the vehicles. But Mom doesn't really care. Mom actually hasn't lifted her head at all. She's gone to sleep now, which is good. I'm happy that she's relaxed. Now, I'm just looking at a photo that I took this morning to see if it is the same little leopard cub. I'm just quickly comparing the little spots. No, I think... Is it a little girl? I'm having a look. The one that was definitely up the tree was a female. But I don't know if the eye spots match perfectly. No, I think that this is the other little cub that I haven't really seen. So that's quite cute. So please take some screenshots because it is sitting out fairly open. You can see it has a 2-2 spot pattern, this little one. And now we look for any interesting markings that we can see on its face. Also just keep in mind though, while they're little, their spots and their rosettes are quite condensed and compacted. So as they get older, they're probably going to spread out a little bit. So it might not look exactly the same. But if we can see anything obvious, looks like he has got 4 spots going down the center of its forehead and also on its right ear. I don't know if you saw at the back, it had some little spots too, which was quite cute. Come and look at us one more time. But you can use any sort of collection of patterns or on a leopard, on its body, on its face, anywhere. So if you see something that I don't, please share your screenshots. #WildEarth. Oh, you are so precious, aren't you? Look at that tiny little pink nose. You can also now see how young they are and how fluffy they still are. Yeah, they're just really enjoying themselves. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to stay here for very much longer. It seems as though there's a long line of people who would love to come and see these leopards. So we definitely need to give them space, but we can't move now, not while this little one is being so adorable. Don't you come too close. I don't want to have to deal with Mom. Creeping closer and closer, naughty little leopard. But eventually they'll get to the point where they're just so relaxed with us that they don't mind at all. But you can already see they will take after their mother's behavior too. And she isn't timid of the vehicles. This is pretty amazing, but unfortunately I think we're going to have to call it a day and head on off and go and look for some other wonderful animals. But off you go across to James, who's still with the elephants.
We're still with our elephants. We were about to leave them, but there seemed to be quite a lot of consternation as one of them came charging this way going, "Brrr!" And then the tuskless cow, who we thought was the sort of matriarch of the group, had a bit of a, I don't know, say-so with the tusked one that came in to say hello, and our peace has been restored. I actually don't think it was aggressive, and I actually think half the time that we may perceive elephant sounds as being aggressive, they aren't. They're just very loud, and, you know, as human beings, the louder the sound, the more aggressive normally the human being is, unless they just happen to be a loud person. Everything's nice and peaceful now. Yeah, we'll stay with them for a little bit longer. Then we're going to head off towards the waterhole and see if Tandy didn't make her way around there at some stage during the day. And Rushka, it depends on which tooth you're talking about. So the tusks definitely break. They don't crumble, no. Sometimes they fall out. If there's an abscess in the nerve, they might fall out. And then the molars wear away, and as they wear away, they're replaced. 6 sets of teeth they get. We only get 2. All right, they're heading into some thickish stuff there, and I'm not going to follow them, on account of the fact that it will irritate them, I suspect. So we're going to head off down through the stream and back to the waterhole. Wonderful elephant sighting. Are you ready, David?
Yeah.
Yes, you're holding on tight, are you? Well, good, because this could be quite a crossing. We are now going to head across to Lauren. I don't know where she is, I don't know what she's doing, but she'll tell you.
I'm here, James. What am I doing? It's quite exciting. We have just had news that Hukamuri is on Arathusa. Arathusa is this property here. We can't traverse it, but he's headed in a direction towards Juma. And Hukamuri is a dominant male leopard, and people have been worried about him recently because, sorry, I'm seeing spots everywhere, because he was in a fight with Mulwati and he was injured, and apparently he is absolutely fine. We've had the update. He doesn't look like he was ever in a battle. So Hukamuri's fine. He's somewhere here, very, very close to the western boundary, looking like he's about to head into Juma. And that would make sense. He needs to come into Juma, especially after the rains. There was rain a few days ago with Trushala and Steve. And it's very, very normal for dominant male leopards and female to come and remark their territory. So I think it might sound a bit boring, but I think it's worth it if I just patrol this road to see if he pops out. I've got a funny feeling he is going to pop out and he's going to cross into our property, which means we will be able to follow him. So unfortunately, I've not got him at the minute, but that's what we are trying to do. He is somewhere here. And knowing Hook, you get to know the leopards. I think TAYLA was just telling you about the spot patterns, how to identify them. But once you spend a lot of time with them, you do actually get to know their personalities. I'm a firm believer that animals do have personalities, and Hook very, very much likes to walk on the road. So does Tingana. Mulwati, not so much. So I really, really want to catch up with this male leopard, and I know that most of you do too. So I think I'm going to put all my effort into trying to spot Mr. Hukamuri. He had a tough time. I don't think it's easy to be Hukamuri right now. He lost his lady, Shadulu, to another dominant male. And it was such a thing to witness. I've never seen anything like it before. Let's stop at these impala. See if they have any information. Good evening. Sometimes you can just tell from an impala's behaviour that something's up. They're all huddled tightly together, but I actually think they're looking fairly relaxed. Have you guys seen a leopard? Is that a no? They're alert. Impalas would also sort of react to the sound of sawing. So if they could hear a leopard sawing in the distance, they would huddle together like this. Sometimes it's worth just spending time with the impala, and they are the ones that'll spot the leopard long before any human eye would. Let's turn that radio down. You see how they're all looking in the one direction? Do you see this? They see something. Every single... Oh, okay, there's a vehicle behind us. I think the impala sees something or hears something that I unfortunately do not. I think we need to investigate here. Remember, their vision is far more acute than ours, and their hearing. Okay, I'm going to really do my best for you all to try and find Tukamuri. He's somewhere, and as I do that, we're going to send you over to Clive to see what he's investigating.
Welcome back to and Beyond Pender Private Game Reserve. And what we have for you right now is just a stunning view. We left those rhinos just now, and we've come up to this little lookout point to use some binoculars, scan out over the area. There were tracks of a pride of lions kind of just over this first little ridge here, coming in this direction, so we thought we'd just stop here and scan out over this area. So those mountains you can see up in the distance there are called the Lebombo Mountains, and they start around here in South Africa, and they actually go all the way up to East Africa, up to Kenya, Tanzania, to the Great Rift Valley, so it's an incredibly long mountain range. Not very high in particular, but extremely long. It literally just starts on one side out by what we have, one of our lodges called Mountain Lodge, and it just stretches north for a very, very long way. But it's also just such a beautiful area. This is all quite a big open grassland. Just forming because of some of the soils that come off these old volcanic rocks which make up these mountains. And it's really good, nutritious soil that comes from it. And the trees and grass that grow here are very, very good for the animals. So we see often big herds of zebra, wildebeest, as we saw today, white and black rhino. We saw all in one view, which is quite something. And that obviously in turn brings predators to the area, like cheetah. It's a fantastic area for cheetah because of the big open grasslands. As I was saying, there were tracks of a pride of lions here that we call the Biala Pride. But it's just such a fantastic area to explore. And far down there in the distance, about 5 or 6 kilometers from here, is where we started the show with those mating monitor lizards. That was, as I say, about 5 or 6 kilometers away from here. So we've done a fair amount of traveling too. Inkov, you're asking what animals are found in, I think, in the Lubombo Mountains is what you're asking. So in the mountains, it can be slightly different. Lions will still go up there, elephants, giraffe, all those kind of animals will still go up there. There are a couple of animals that you get in the mountains that you actually get nowhere else, or not nowhere else, but that don't really come down into the open plains. That's things like some of the antelope, like klipspringer, which hop around in the rocks. There's something called a mountain reedbuck, which is really quite special to see up in those mountains as well. And what else? It's very good habitat for leopards because there's a lot of place to hide, lots of rocks. You can see it's quite heavily wooded, lots of trees, so a lot of hiding place for leopards. But there's not too many roads just because of the terrain. It's obviously very rocky and very steep. So there's not too many roads up there, but it's a fantastic area to get off on foot and go and walk around and see what you can find. I've done that a few times as well. It's a very special area. Shinzi, we do not have bat-eared foxes here, no. They are restricted more to the drier areas. I'm not too sure if they get them in Swalu, you never know. But otherwise I know they're restricted more to the drier areas of South Africa. And this, where we are here, we're right on the east coast of South Africa. And it's quite wet. We get a lot of rain here. As you can see, it's still, even though it's the middle of winter for us, it's actually still quite green. It's also amazing how even not just the animals, but even the birds, if you come out to this open grassland, there's certain birds you get here. But as soon as you go up into those mountains, there's certain birds that you get only up there. And then there's other birds that you get all over South Africa that are found around in this area where we are here. But as soon as you go over those mountains, which is still part of Phinda, there's some birds that occur throughout a lot of South Africa and on this side of the mountain, but they just don't go over the mountains. Birds that you see up maybe quite often with in some of the other reserves, like for example, yellow-billed hornbill. Find them lots all through a lot of the other reserves, and we see them in this area here, but as soon as we go up over the mountains, you almost never see them, which is pretty amazing. And there's a lot of birds actually like that. And it's the same. There's some that you only find on the other side of the mountains and not this side. So it's it makes this reserve that we're on, Phinda, it makes it very diverse. A lot of different animals and birds. But it's just also a fantastic way just to kind of see the day off. The sun is going down behind us, so we can't see it from here, but it's a perfect spot just to kind of see the day off and listen out for any alarm calls, because it's getting to the time of the evening now when the lions and different nocturnal animals will start getting a bit more active. And with our sun setting on this side of South Africa, we're going to send you across to the western side of South Africa, where the sun is still nice and high in the sky.
So we're just ambling around, seeing what we can find. We've got no particular route that we're taking or particular plan. But you never know what turns up rather. I was just listening to our colleagues down at Phinda talking about the diversity in those areas, and that region of South Africa is incredibly diverse. But then again, if you take Swallow as an example, this area of the Kalahari, the southern Kalahari, we've now recorded 78 different species of butterfly on Swallow. And that is pretty remarkable if you think in terms of the whole of the British Isles. And again, I stand to correction, but it's either 55, 56, 57 species, somewhere around there. So an area the size of Swallow, which is minuscule, has got 25 plus species more than the whole of the British Isles. That's pretty cool. So diversity, it shouldn't just necessarily be measured on the sheer numbers, because then we might as well just keep a tick list and say, well, that place is better than this place. You've got to look at the context of it, where it is, and say, and then of course, the reason why it's important to understand your diversity of an area is once you know what you've got to work with, then you can start getting these little markers. And you say, well, actually, if something is missing that was there, you can start, okay, well, why is it missing? Or if numbers are going down, why are the numbers going down? And then, as a benchmark, reserves like this, and Pinda, and Timbavati, Klaseri, Kruger National Park, Yellowstone, doesn't matter where you are in the world, these reserves are very, very important for conserving biodiversity as there's refugia for anything that lives in those areas. And very often, things disappear outside of reserves, and no one will ever know what was there if it wasn't for places like this, where we can say, okay, well, actually that butterfly should occur, then it still occurs within protected areas. What are we doing wrong outside of those areas? So it's a really nice topic that they raised there in Pinda about the biodiversity of the area. It just goes a whole lot further than that. It's not just about that spot or about Swallow. It's about the bigger conservation imperative for protecting these kind of areas. And, the other side of it is creating that awareness and that enjoyment amongst people like all of us, all of you watching, and Genre and myself on these drives. It's fantastically important that we create an awareness for these big open spaces. I haven't got anything in particular. I'm just looking. I think there are. I'm looking for binoculars. There's somewhere there. Oh, thanks, Genre. Genre, if you look in this open area to the left over here, here's one of, they've just flown away. Genre, you're so lucky. It's one of Genre's favorite birds is a dove. And he finds them very easy to recognize, and I think that's probably why they're his favorite. No, but in terms, on a serious note now, in terms of biodiversity, you can, if we don't create these spaces where we understand what's here, what the diversity component is, how will we ever understand or try, because I don't think we ever will understand fully how do you best manage these places. But if we don't know what's there to begin with, how can you even begin approaching the concept of looking after them, caring for them, you're being custodians for these areas. And on that happy thought, we're going to continue up here.
Well, a change of scenery to my favorite animal, the grey giants of Africa. And this is an elephant bull that we have seen actually more than once. But we had a very nice sighting of him on Saturday morning. You may remember, he's a youngish bull. He came up very close to the vehicle, as it looks like he's about to do now, but he has got a little hold in his left ear. Yes, you're very big, brave and tough, and you're the scariest elephant I've ever seen in my entire life. He's not very old. He thinks he's much bigger than us because he's standing on a bit of a hill. Yes, you've got your high heels on, and you're about 6 inches taller than us. Whoop-de-doo, elephant. It always amazes me when young Ellie bulls do that. See, he just came over, stuck his trunk out, and now he's just going to carry on eating again. Are you done now? Showing off in front of your friends. There are 2 other elephant bulls here, but they are moving off into the distance fairly quickly now. They're going to make their way down. They don't actually look like they've had a drink. They might have been earlier this morning. It looks like they've got wet ankles, but not anything from this afternoon. So they must have been down at Ndlovu Dam, right by the eco training camp. Now I don't know where they're going to go. Maybe they're not going to have a second drink this evening. Looks like they're just going to migrate down this little rocky ridge, maybe feed on some rock figs or some other tasty treats, some shikama plums, some different types of trees that might be growing here in the rocky crevices that they don't see out on the plains. CJ, so basically, there's not much that an elephant won't eat, and that's because their digestive system is not particularly great. So we know that elephants only digest about 40% of their food or so, give or take. And I've seen elephants feeding on euphorbias, which is a type of tree that you might even find in this rocky outcrop. And it's quite a toxic plant. It's one of the very toxic plant species throughout the world. In fact, it has a milky latex that can do all sorts of things. And in your sensitive parts of your skin, it can leave you with blisters. It can cause temporary blindness, but there they disappear. So, you know, no, they eat a little bit of everything. I've watched them eat turpentine grass. It just doesn't taste particularly nice, but it actually is fairly palatable in the sense that it has quite a few nutrients and it's got quite a high crude protein value to it, but it doesn't taste nice. So they just carry on. I'm just waiting for Rebecca, who is directing, to call me back for any more of your questions. I'm a bit worried. I don't want to move right now. The reason being is I think that we might lose signal if we go back, and if we go forward, we're definitely going to lose signal. So we're just sort of sitting in this area at the moment. Lots of marula trees. It's actually one of my favorite routes to drive. We don't always get to drive it because there is a section where the rocky outcrop comes right up onto the road. And I'm waiting for the day that we've either got lions or leopards sitting up top there, because it's inevitable that we will see them there. There we go. That's the sound of Rebecca. Sorry about that, everybody. She just called us, so please excuse the little tune there, you know, classic iPhone. Right, I think we are going to take this pathway and see where it takes us. Off we go back across to Pinda and see what Clive is doing.
Welcome back again. We are exploring this expanse area that we are now, and it's pretty incredible because I think the last time I came here was quite a while ago, so it's actually nice to come back. The last tracks we saw of this pride of lions was a bit behind us, but as you can see, the road is quite rocky here. So it's getting a little bit hard to see the tracks properly. So we just kind of, luckily for us, it's very open so we can see far. And we just keep on stopping and scanning with binoculars and listening as well for any alarm calls. And hopefully, just hopefully, we can find these lions today. But it's getting to that really nice time of the afternoon where it's cooling down a lot. Baz, you're asking if I've had a close encounter with a mountain reedbuck. I wouldn't say close, no. They're normally quite nervous animals, but sometimes there are some of them that I've seen that are. Sorry. So as I was saying, those, there are some that are a bit more used to vehicles that I've seen, and I've gotten to within maybe 20 meters or 30 meters of one, and then they're all right. But they're just really interesting antelope. I've got a picture of the mountain reedbuck here. If you have a look in this top corner over here, this is the mountain reedbuck. So quite short little horns, but yeah, quite interesting little antelope. Anyway, while we carry on exploring through this area, we're going to cross over to Lauren, who's managed to find a hyena.
A running, galloping live animal. Gone, just like that. A hyena. Not sure who it is. Really don't know. Crossed over from Arathusa into Djuma. So it could be one of the Djuma clanners. Nose in the air. Now what that normally means is the hyena is on the trail or on the scent of a leopard. They spend most of their days trying to find leopards in order to see if they can steal the leopard's food. Hukamuri's here. He's here somewhere, everyone. I wonder who that hyena was. Now, I'm not going to bash off through the bush after a hyena at this stage. I just want to keep looking for Hukamuri for now, but we're going to give you a glorious view in just a moment, hopefully, of the sunset. Oh, BK, can you see the ideal position for this sunset? I think it's coming up. Yes, it is coming up. We've got a lovely tree here and a nice gap where you'll be able to see that sun setting. Okay, maybe that's not so perfect. This is actually harder than it looks, trying to find a gap in the tree for the sunset. Okay, BK, you're in charge. Say when. Now? Yes, let's try. And it's often good just to turn off your engine as well and listen in case there's a sawing leopard nearby. Isn't that artistic? I meant it, everybody. I meant that artistic approach. So, from my sunset, I believe I'm sending you to another one.
Yes, we've got a lovely sunset and the sun is about to pop below the horizon, so I'm going to shut up and allow the sunset to infuse you with its peace. In fact, we're not going to sit here and watch the sun go down because there's a much more interesting creature waiting for you in the Kalahari.
We got bat-eared foxes. We've got a whole family of bat-eared foxes. Okay, that one's just going behind there now. We're going to go forward a little bit. Oh, there's another running in the distance. Two of them running in the distance. Oh. Sorry, Jeandre, I'm watching your screen here. Jeandre's doing such a good job of trying to keep track of these things. So this is their time. Yes, I can't believe that was brilliant. Brilliant. Sorry to drag you all away from such an amazing sunset on the other side there. But seeing this was just so special. I'm just going to pull forward a little bit and we'll see if we can spot them here again. Oh, it's wonderful seeing these. So these are...
Sorry about that. Hopefully we'll be able to get the signal back at Swalu. A little bit like this morning, the dusk chorus is also not very loud. In fact, a couple of green wood hoopoes, a pearl-spotted owl in the distance, a few drongos, and not much else. And this time of the year is probably, as far as smells go, one of my favourite, because there's this delightful scent of drying grass. The falling combretum leaves give off a sort of potpourri type of scent, and the dry grass itself smells, or has a unique smell, and it puffs dust off it, which also has a bit of a nice smell. So I really like the smell of the midwinter here. Righty. Let us press on. We've had no luck with Tundi, obviously, otherwise you'd be looking at her, as would we. But we'll keep looking around the place to see if we get lucky. For her, or whatever else comes as night slowly starts to fall here, on the western fringes of the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. Jetpack boy, who told you that they are? We don't know for certain that humans are the only self-conscious animals. In fact, I think we're fairly certain that many of our primate relatives are self-conscious. In other words, conscious of themselves. And there's some evidence to suggest that birds like crows show the same kind of consciousness of self. So I think that you'll find that the development of self-consciousness often goes hand in hand with the development of general intelligence, which is a really dodgy, or has a very dodgy definition, but I think you'll find the more complexly social an animal is, the more likely it is to have some kind of consciousness of self. I don't think we're alone in the animal world, however, in terms of being conscious of self. Bonobos, chimpanzees, gorillas almost certainly have a consciousness of self. Like I say, some birds, probably many other primate species. Entirely possible that elephants do as well. Maybe even things like hyenas. Oh, I was asked a question last night and I was unable to give a satisfactory answer, and a friend of mine sent me a really nice article on it. And the question was, why is it that bats give us so many diseases, and why don't those diseases affect those bats? And I kind of got halfway there and then didn't get the rest of the way there. Anyway, one of the reasons is a really nice, interesting reason for it, is that in the mammals, first of all, a quarter of all mammals in the world are bats. So there are lots and lots of different kinds of bats. Secondly, they are unique, obviously, in the mammals in being able to fly. Now, flying, especially as a mammal, because their bones are heavier than bird bones, flying, and the method they choose for flying, takes a huge amount of energy. And in order to produce that amount of energy, they've got to have a dangerously high metabolic rate. So a dangerously high metabolic rate. Now what that does when you have a very high metabolic rate is that it tends to destroy certain cells in your body, which, I mean, it happens in all of our bodies, but when your metabolic rate's very high, and I don't know the physics behind it, it destroys the nuclei of those cells and releases little pieces of DNA. Now, in most of us, a little piece of DNA floating around in the bloodstream would be perceived by the immune system as a virus, because that's basically what a virus is, a piece of RNA or a piece of DNA, a piece of genetic material. And so the bat doesn't, if the bat's immune system kicked in every time it had this piece of free-floating yet harmless RNA or DNA, then what would happen is that it would basically have a permanent autoimmune disease. That doesn't happen. So while we couldn't cope with all those things floating around in our bodies, our immune response would just go through the roof. Bats have a slightly dulled down immune response to certain things, and they're able to cope. They have an immune system that can cope with a great number of viruses and things and little pieces of RNA and DNA in the system without them actually having to trigger an immune response. And what that means is, in isolation, they carry a far greater number of viruses that don't harm them. And as long as they're isolated from human beings, they don't get affected by these viruses and things. But when they come into contact with human beings, what happens is those viruses sometimes, not always, but sometimes find a path into a host that can't cope with them. COVID is a really nice example of such a virus. And many of our diseases, of course, that we know of come from animals like bats. And bats are responsible, well, not personally, obviously, but their kind are responsible for rabies, for a number of these SARS viruses, what else? There are quite a few others. My small brain has unfortunately not remembered from this article. Anyway, it was a lovely New York Times article about zoonotic diseases, or zoonoses as they're known. So there you are. That's why it is that bats are not affected by the viruses like we are, and how it is that they carry so many. I hope that made sense. If it didn't, I apologize. Tell me, and I'll go and read the article again. Now, you shall attempt to either bump into that elephant herd again, because they were around here, or better still, find Tundi on her way back to her cub. No, Shandy, you'll probably find that they don't get transferred to many of the animals in the park. I mean, things like rabies, yes, you find them in lots of different species, and it does affect most species that it gets into. But, you know, there are a number of species that can carry it and not be affected, like bats. Hyenas are not affected by rabies. I think mongoose carry rabies, but are not affected by it. So there are some diseases that cross between bats and other animals around here. But what you need to remember is that bats are very seldom in contact with other mammals at all. So a human being picks it up from a bat when he comes into contact with a bat or a bat cave. Now, normally, of course, you wouldn't go into a cave riddled with millions of bats. In fact, most people could imagine nothing more horrific. But if you're hunting bats and you're selling them, or if you are in a market where bats are being sold, you're unnaturally in contact with these bats and therefore with the viruses. Now out here, the animals around here, you don't find impalas knocking about with bats. I'm sure that, I mean, there are birds that certainly kill bats, catch bats. Bat hawk is a good example. Goshawks will catch bats as they come out at night. But, few mammals come into contact with bats or other mammals, and those that do have been doing so for a very long time. So bats have basically been around for about 50 million years, which is much, much longer than human beings have been around. And so you'll find that in a natural area, in a wilderness area, those mammals that do come into contact with bats regularly are used to being in contact with them. They've evolved to be in contact with them and are therefore not affected by the diseases like we might be. Now here is a very strange dancing Swainson's spurfowl. He's standing upon one leg. Now, I don't know if that leg is missing or if he is going to sleep like that, if he is doing a dance. I suspect he is probably just going to sleep like that, because what that does, of course, is it reduces the amount of skin exposed to the cold night air. Now, another one of these Swainson spurfowls has just called off towards the north, and let's see if this one does the same. There we are. He's got two legs. There's another one calling now. He'll call again. It's a territorial call. In fact, there are quite a few trees around here where I can hear spurfowls and franklins. Now, I don't think that he's ever going to join a professional choir with a voice like that. Domna, I'm afraid I would be telling you a total lie if I said that I had any clue as to whether or not they prefer one leg to stand on. I don't know. I doubt that you'd get a huge amount of funding for such research. I can imagine you going to the board of a research institute and saying, now, what I really would want to do is find out whether Swainson's spurfowls are more likely to stand on one leg or another when they go to sleep. I don't think you'd be able to get that funding. You could observe them, however. I suspect quite strongly that they do have a preferred one because, the first time they do it, the very first time they stand on their one leg, there will be a very slight change in the muscle structure in that one leg. And if they happen to do it the next night and the night after that, you'll find that slowly they get used to doing it on only one leg. Now, I don't know if they have a sort of dominance like we do, left or right-handed dominance like we do. But you probably find that it just gets easier to stand on one leg the more they do it. But I really don't know. It actually would be quite interesting to know because it'd be fascinating to know if something like a bird left or right-handed dominance. Up to the Kalahari Red Sands.
So we were just looking at that burrow there. And we actually thought we saw something dart down it, but we weren't 100% certain. But any burrows in this environment are really, really hot property. There's actually some fun studies that have been done on the importance of burrows, particularly aardvark burrows, in these systems where you've got I think at the moment we're on about 26 different species that are well known to utilize aardvark burrows. Okay, that's we're not talking about like big mammals here necessarily. That's like ranging from small little things to larger mammals like warthogs that'll use them, porcupines, that kind of stuff. I just wanted to have a little closer squiz there. Yeah, I don't see anything obvious. All right, well, we're going to keep on ambling along and see what we can get.
No, I know you're probably thinking, why on earth are we coming back to TAYLA? But, well, to me, I don't know why I spoke about myself in third person, but what you can't see is there is a little hyena head. There are two of them right in front of the car. We're at the hyena den, the Pridelands clan. They're very curious. Can the two of you please come out from the front of the vehicle? I don't know where they are now, and I'm worried because I can't see what they're doing, and I don't chew anything, because this is exactly what little hyena cubs do best. Oh, there we go. There's one. Right here. To look through the gap between the window. How's that for framing? This is what relaxed hyena look like, and I know you get to see them all the time with the Juma clan, but we're so lucky. They're so funny, these things. They're very fluffy. Yes, you're becoming very brave. And you can see their attention is not always on me. They keep looking over their shoulder. Because there's a herd of elephants here. And we've seen it once before where some, well, I don't know, shall we call them brave or silly little hyenas went out and thought it would be a good idea to chase around an elephant bull. And then the tables turned very quickly and they had to rush back into their den. So that might happen again. Luckily they're old enough and they're quite quick on their feet that they would be able to make it straight back into the den if something like that were to happen. What can you hear? Who can you see, or who can you smell, should I say? The terrible two. No, I haven't seen the cubs for a couple of days. Every time I come here, and I do try and come once a day, they haven't been active. They've been fast asleep. Maybe I'm getting here too early. You know, it's been very cold these last few mornings. Are you trying to coax your other friends out who are still in the den? I mean, I would just be in the den all day long, to be honest. I'm coming back for seconds. But these two are youngish hyenas. You can sort of see how fluffy they are. I think they're probably just over, 4 months, 5 months, somewhere around there. Camera always makes these things look bigger. Coming right up again. Yes, you're very sweet. I can't wait to actually sit down and have a look at all the hyena pictures that I've got from the past few weeks, or almost month now, and start putting them all together and trying to figure out who is who. It's just difficult to try and figure out who is the mother of which hyena, because I've only seen one adult suckling the cubs, so I can only confirm 2 of the cubs belonging to one of the hyenas, which we saw on the buffalo carcass or the blind left eye. So that should be a whole lot of fun. What do we smell like to you? They've got such an incredible sense of smell. Can you smell the deodorant I put on, or perhaps the polish that I've used on the vehicle? Or maybe the fact that Gert said it's laundry day and he hasn't got a clean pair of socks. Who knows? I'm only teasing. But I'm sure everything smells delicious. It's actually probably my snacks that I have in the vehicle. Delicious rusks, which are twice-baked biscuits for those of you that don't know what they are. It's a staple diet as a South African. Something's caught their attention on the other side there. A couple of birds chirping. And you're looking inside the den. I would like it if some more of them came out, so that we could just see if they're all here and how they're doing. The other morning I got a bit of a fright because we arrived at the den and there were elephant footprints and elephant dung everywhere. The ellies had walked right on top of the den. Oh, there comes another hyena. That's what you're staring at. This is one of the older cubs. With your long legs. You're like a supermodel in comparison. Oh, there we go. Off to say hello. Not particularly interested in greeting back, though. Not too much age difference. Probably maybe a month and a half or 2 months. Also coming up to the vehicle, Joy. Hello. Now, of course, for those of you who have just joined us for the first time, this is a live and interactive safari, so you can send us questions, and all you have to do is hashtag Wild Earth on Twitter. That's the best way to get hold of us, or comment on the YouTube stream if that's how you're watching, or any other social media platform that might have grabbed your attention. Something on the ground that they're now all sniffing. But there's lots of animals that have been passing by here. There's some very prominent animal pathways. Yeah, you see, you got a fright because you tripped on a log. That hyena I think we should call TAYLA, because, I mean, if anybody was going to fall over something, don't touch the car. They can't touch the vehicle. They can't learn that they can buy things. You can hear me snapping my fingers and they're just not responding. No. Don't do that. It's really hard to... No, see, I don't know what they got a fright of now. I think the one maybe did touch the skirting board of the vehicle. Have you ever felt metal upon your nose? Don't do it, though. I'm not encouraging this behavior, I promise. Ian, I don't know why the hyenas want to chew everything. I think it's because of, like, they love to chew tires, mud flaps. They pull off the big lights that we add to the vehicles. They like to chew on those. Brake lines, that's one of their favorites. I think it just must be a different texture that they're not used to. Don't worry, hyenas. I'm pretty sure your parents will show you, or at least your mothers, how to raid a safari camp. And then you can have a taste of all sorts of delicious things. Pots and pans and rubbish bins. They're an absolute nightmare sometimes when they come into the camps, especially your parents, your mothers that come through and harass us all the time. Every night we have to chase them out, and we don't leave anything lying around. So I think maybe it also feels nice on their teeth. Where are they? I'm watching them. Oh, there's one here. Oi, you. Careful. That was an elephant. Yeah. If you cause trouble here, I'm going to call the elephants, and they will chase you back inside your den. Very curious, that one is smelling something. Oh, you're brave enough to come through, but when I shuffle in my chair, you have a heart attack. Okay, that's fine. Tawny, yes, hyenas don't just have a sloping back like that for fun. Although maybe you saw it with the brown hyena with Dylan, was it yesterday afternoon? That was so cool. I was so envious that you got to see it. They have a particularly sloping back. So hyenas are known to have a lot of stamina, and they can run great distances. I mean, they travel far and wide to search for food. They won't just stay in the immediate area. And having a sloping back like that, we see it with wildebeest, with red hartebeest, with topee. They also have that sloping back. And when they run, I suppose it helps them get into a bit of a rhythm, hey, like a rocking horse. So they're able to continue these distances at a constant speed for a long period of time without actually using too much energy. Also, I mean, a hyena's power all is in their shoulders, and they're heavy lifting machines. I mean, I always tell the story. Oh, there's another hyena coming from the back. I always tell the story of how I watched a hyena run with half a hippo leg. I'm pretty sure it was a hind leg, and how it was able to pick it up and run with it, I have no idea. So I think that also helps by having, you know, the front end a little bit higher off the ground than the rear. They're very entertaining. But we're going to say goodnight to these little hyenas because we don't have infrared, I'm afraid, and I'm not going to put a spotlight on them. The adults are also not here, but maybe they'll grace us with their presence in the morning.
Wild Earth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the Wild Earth family.
Now, unfortunately, we didn't manage to find Hukamuri, but I have found the moon. Or at least the crescent. Isn't that gorgeous? The sky is alive with colour. I think I say this every single day, but it really is breathtaking. Let's take a look at that skyline, BK. Would you look at that? Now, just an update. We drove up and down Triple M, which is our western boundary, about 5 or 6 times. And I think that probably reached a limit of looking slightly crazy. It got to the point where the Impala were also looking at us as if we're crazy. We really, really tried to find Hukamuri. He's there. He is right on the eastern edge of Arathusa, which is our western edge. So there's a high chance he's going to cross tonight, which is great. It gives us good prospects for the morning, but sadly he just hasn't crossed as of yet. So we stopped to listen to some Impala snorting, but I think it was just the males being, well, males. Not alarm calls, I'm afraid. So I think what we're going to do is just head into quarantine. And see what we can find down that way. Tariq, I have just started back and I haven't seen Hukamuri, but I know BK and Steve had him. How long ago, BK? A week ago? Yeah, and he was injured after his sort of battle with Mulwati over Shadulu. And I witnessed that sighting, and it was probably the most incredible sighting I have ever seen with the 3 of them. And Rebecca's just told me it was the 7th of June that Hukamuri was last seen. So he's fine, he's perfectly well, he's not limping, he's not injured, he's absolutely fine, which just shows you how resilient these animals really are. Of course, he's already damaged one eye, he's damaged an ear. When I saw him, he had a wound under his chin, and I believe he was limping really badly, but he appears to be absolutely fine. And the male leopard dynamics for me right now are very, very interesting. And I must say that I think Mulwati is definitely the dominant male of Juma now. And for those of you that are new with us, it used to be a male called Tingana. Now, Tingana's still alive, he's still well, but I think he's reached the ripe old age of 14 years old, and I think the crown now goes to Mulwati, and that's why all the dynamics are changing. That's why we're not seeing Tingana, that's why leopard's roots are changing, things are moving. Territories are very fluid anyway, but I thought I saw something moving there, BK. Do you see anything? Let me just check. My eyes are not great at this time of night. But yes, Mulwati has caused lots of problems in terms of the leopard movements. Things have really, really changed around here now. And I think he will be the father of many of our females' offspring. Shadula was very much Hukamuri's lady, but not anymore. Now, I witnessed that sighting. I was with Steve, and what was so fantastic about it was that the 2 males spent more time eyeballing and trying to fight with one another than they did with the female. Now, you have a female leopardess in estrus here. The scent, everything about that leopardess was, of course, making the males react. She kept trying to mate with Hukamuri. She kept putting her rear end in his face, which is what the female cats do, and he would not mate with her. His focus was solely on the other male, and I've personally never witnessed anything like that before, and it was fantastic. Tristan found them, and of course Steve followed up in the afternoon, and I think Mulwati is the dominant male of Juma now. In my opinion, it's very much safe to say that. It's just rather unfortunate that he's very skittish.
We've got an elephant shrew. We've got an elephant shrew, a sengi. We have a bushveld elephant shrew. This is the most amazing sighting. This is the animal that I've been waiting for 4 weeks to try show you. This, for me, is comfortably on a par with a honey badger. This is insane. This is insane to get this footage. I am ecstatic, and I'm trying my best not to even budge so Jandre keeps getting these shots. I am over the moon. I'm over the moon. I'm hoping he comes out. Now, you must imagine Jandre is doing an amazing job actually even getting that little bit of stuff in there. It's super tough inside there, but he might pop out into the open. Oh, please, 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 please. Because these are omnivores. So he'll go for little bits of fruit. He'll eat insects as well. I'm so excited. If he quite, he might come out into the open. Come on, my boy. Okay, he's going to the right now. I don't know where he is. We'll see. He might actually run out the back, maybe, but I don't think so. I'm not even turning around. I'm just watching the screen here now. I am flipping, trying to jump out my pants now. This is so exciting. I promise you. So you may recall, I don't know, maybe probably a week ago, if not more, there was this tiny line of very, very tiny little tracks across the road on one of our drives, on one of the early morning drives. And I said, this species, I can't tell you what it is, but this is what I want to try get. And it's an elephant shrew. So this is the one that I've been looking for. And they are notoriously difficult. He's on the left, outside on the ground, on the left-hand side, on the sand on the left. There you go. Okay, he'll come out again. Okay, he's in the bush, in the middle of the bush, slap bang in the center. Go right, and up a little bit, and there, straight, go in there. Go straight in there. There, okay, no, up a fraction. I'm going to try guys, this is off the charts. I'm going to just look through the binoculars slowly and see if I can see one. Okay, go on to the left-hand side, Chandra. Okay, this bush that's right in front of you, in front of the camera, there. Okay, go in there, well done. Guys, just keep watching, just bear with us, please. This is an amazing sighting. I promise you this is an amazing sighting. Oh my goodness. Okay, this is not a rodent. These are not rodents. And they actually used to be called, I was saying now it is an elephant shrew. The elephant shrew is the old name for it. They are now called sengis. 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 And like I say, they are omnivores, so they'll even go for little bits of fallen fruit, berries, things like that, and then insects. And yes, I can't believe how lucky we are. This thing darted across the road in front of us. Jandre, how you picked that thing up, I have no idea, because it's really, really well done. Really well done, guys. I am in heaven, yeah. And there's another one that's just come back into this clump. Yes! MGM, they do live in these underground burrows. Come back to the same clump that you're on, but he's on the right-hand side. Yes, they do live in underground burrows, right in there, right straight in there, right where you are now. In there you are. They do live in underground burrows, but normally inside these thickets. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, okay. That is the best thing on the planet ever. Oh, my word. Yes. And again, they would fall prey to snakes. Notably, things like puff adders would go for these. So, I mean, I'm over the moon that we've actually got this. This is just like off the charts cool. Off the charts cool. And we must look, I mean, you're never going to see elephant shrews like that sitting out in the open like that. This is incredible. You need so much patience to see these things normally. Where's he gone? He might even come further out into the open here. We'll just be patient. So just bear with us. This is incredible stuff. I mean, look at this. You can be looking at small stuff. You don't just have to be looking at the big stuff. This, I promise you, this has made my day, my week, my month, my year. And okay, I mean, those honey badgers for me were like, but this is comfortably on a par with honey badgers for me personally. This is wow. So we get, to the best of my knowledge, we get 3 different kinds. We get a bushveld, a rock, and I can't even remember what the other one is now. But I think we get 3 different species. I'll have to check the third one. It's just slipped my mind there now. And and you can see where the name elephant shrew originally came from. They've got this beautiful long nose. And that's what they use for sniffing out their prey. You've got an excellent sense of smell. But they actually split them from the shrews because they are omnivores. Whereas the shrews, as we know, old Taming of the Shrew kind of thing, they are proper. Okay, he's in this bush right here on the right hand side of the road, yeah. And he's you got a bar in front of you, yeah. Guys, sorry, I know. Just we've got John Ray's doing his best, Joe. So just be patient, please. Please be patient. Your shrew will be answered in approximately 30 seconds. No. But I am over the moon. I'm so happy. What can I say? That's Kalahari. Yes. So just out of interest, down at Pinda, all of the places that you're joining us and our colleagues on have got shrews, elephant shrews and shrews. We've also got proper shrews here. But down at Pinda, they've got the most awesome shrew, I think, probably on the planet. It's called a 4-toed elephant shrew. And that thing is a 4-toed sengi, I guess they would call it now. But that thing is a big, chunky monkey. And they form these beautiful runs through the sand forest. So these ones also get that, and that's how I picked up originally on these little tracks running across the road, and that's what I wanted to show you. So I am just like, wow, that's made my day. Andre, good job on getting that filmed. Yes, yeah. I think we're just going to sit here and just enjoy seeing this little guy if we can see him again, and yeah, I'm happy.
We had elephant shrew here once. Remember, only once have I seen one here, so Dylan is correct. 4-toed elephant shrew. No, Dylan's not what we had. Yes, the 4-toed elephant shrew. Which was then zoop, across right at the end of a drive. It's not a nasty little rodent, but an elephant shrew. We have not seen any bat-eared foxes here, though. Since I saw you last, we have... Oh, no. Apparently our signal is no good. Let's go over to Lauren, find out what she's doing.
Oh, I'm sorry about your signal, James. I don't know where he is, but I am at the famous junction. The 4-way, I call it. And I just want to check, make sure nobody's moving. I'm determined to find my last-minute leopard. Somewhere. Now, we did have the Shadulu the other day. We're very updated on Shadulu and Hukamuri. But unfortunately, our other leopards are being a little bit more discreet. James got super lucky with Tandy this morning. But as for our Duke and our Princess, it's not so easy to come across them at the moment. I'm really, really hoping we can see them again soon. And our Nkahoma Pride, which is our lion pride, the main dominant pride that we have over this reserve, is currently on Elephant Plains, which is to the west. It's always good to keep tabs on where everybody is. And it makes it just a tad easier to track them. And of course, tomorrow again, I will visit our Juma clan hyena den. Once a day, I think it's important that we go there and we spend time with our little double trouble. Now, once it reaches night time, it becomes tricky to look for tracks. Very, very tricky. You only have the beam from the headlights of the car. So that's why we do bring out a spotlight. And of course, as many of you do know, we're just looking for eye shine. The minute we see eye shine, we take the light off, whatever it is we've found, and then we use our infrared light, which means there's no artificial light being shined on that animal. But we need to find them first, and that's exactly why we spotlight. It's also worth checking up in trees as well to see if you can see any nocturnal animals hiding in the trees, like bush babies, for example. It's also very peaceful driving at night. There's something quite serene about driving at night time, but I have to say, sunrise safari is always my favorite. So you can start afresh and find out what's going on during the day. So I'm really, really going to concentrate on finding my last minute leopard, and you lot are heading over to Dylan for an update.
You know, that we haven't forgotten Melanie, and she hasn't forgotten us. She's still joining us. looking slightly the worse for wear. But she's all right. Really looks like me in the morning, I guess. But just better. I think, yes, you can see that. It's like, which one would you choose? Yeah, I'm still like buzzing here after seeing this elephant shoot. This was just like, yeah, how many Christmases can a person have in 1 year? This is just like crazy. It's like honey badgers, pangolins, aardvark, cape foxes, elephant shrews, or sengis, let me get it correct, sengis. Wow. Some kind person just reminded me that just remember the more birthdays, the more Christmases you have, the more birthdays you also have. So, yeah, I'll bear that in mind. Yeah, I think just being out here for me is enough. Eh? And I'm just so pleased that everyone was able to actually see what we've seen today. And not just today, all of our colleagues. I mean, the stuff that they're seeing down there is just incredible. And you know what? If you go out on a drive and you don't see anything, you're still in these incredibly beautiful environments. And it's not just about having to see an animal doing something. You know, it's just being able to spend time out in nature is gold. So Anushka has just asked, why is it called an elephant shrew? And Jeandre and I, we're gonna do our best to show you more of them. They are incredibly difficult to get like that. That's why I've been so buzzing about this one. But their nose, they got one just ran past. Yes, we might see more, but they got this beautiful elongated nose, even more than mine, and they actually use it for sniffing around in the ground. So it's kind of elephant-like. But this is also one of the Afrotheria. Remember we were talking about aardvark being Afrotheria? These Sengis are also Afrotheria. So it's one of these like uniquely African groups of animals. Wow. Yes, I'm just so happy. Even Mel came out to have a look. Good for you. Oh, that's a bird. So I do know the difference between birds and Sengis, I promise. And just down over here, it might be very difficult to see. I know it's dodgy, but these little tracks over here, before I get my butt in the picture again like I did the other day apparently, this little line of tracks over here, these very fine little ones over here, those are the Sengi tracks, and they'll just go from these clumps of bush to clumps of bush. They don't waste a lot of time out in the open. They just dart super fast from bush to bush. Yeah, I'm just so excited. Yes, they'll actually, these bushes that one was foraging under, they called wolfberries in many areas in Europe and health places. They're called wolfberries. We call them lycium, honeythorn. Honeythorn, they got the most insanely incredible scent of honey, and when they've got flowers on. But the fruit on these are tiny little fruits, super, super sweet, delicious. And these little Sengis will actually feed on these fallen fruits as well. They sometimes climb up into the low branches to get to them as well. Wow. Yes. Who can't not enjoy this, Yeah. And these are the kind of moments you want to share with people. You know, it doesn't matter how far away people are or a person is. These are the kind of moments that one should really live for, and hope that just more people can ever get to experience it. Because, you know, it's something that you can't take for granted, and we shouldn't take for granted. It doesn't matter where you are. Sengi, thank you. That was cool. That was super cool. And well done, Jandre, for getting that. Butterflies just asked, are elephant shrews somehow related to elephants? No, not directly at all. They are, like say, Afrotheria. They're kind of uniquely African in that, well, in terms of aardvark. I'm just thinking of the nose here now. But no, they're not. Just in name. And they were, yeah, in name, in name only, unfortunately, because that would be pretty cool. But there are other interesting ones, and if I can show you one of those, it would be a really long shot. Not because they're difficult to get shots of, but it's just our signal, like right up, tucked up against the side of the mountain, becomes very dodgy. So to get the images out to you. But the rock hyrax, in Southern Africa or South Africa, we often call them dassies, D-A-S-S-I-A. That's a small little animal like that, and they've got some weird ways that they're related to elephants. But these little guys, no. And again, that's the challenge with common names. Remember, we're chatting about like weird things like snake weasels, and you know, common names are great to a point, but then you start losing it a little bit, because like what I call a spike thorn to someone else is something completely different in another area. And but I think, you know, names aside, I don't care what you want to call a thing. You can call this plant a cabbage for all I care, and you can call this grass a piece of wheat, and I can call it something different. That's not what's important. What's important is understanding that each of these things have their place. And the snake that lives inside the bush that catches that elephant shrew, or that sengi, that little sengi, has its place. And they're all important in their own weird, wonderful little way. And you know, they're all part of a bigger system. And you know, crazy it sounds, Pinda is linked to us, you know, through ecosystem dynamics, and we're all part of it. We are all part of it. And that's why I keep coming back to it. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, what your circumstances are, enjoy it, appreciate it. On that note, have an amazing evening and stay safe, and we will see you tomorrow morning.